Good evening and welcome to the Monday, March 8th of 2021 virtual meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District Board. And with that, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Director Budge?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Howell? Director Hume?
Here.
Director Jennings?
Here.
Director Kennedy?
Here.
Director Natoli?
Here.
Director Chenier?
Here.
Director Cerna?
Here.
Director Valenzuela?
Here.
And Chair Miller.
Here.
With that, we have, I see that Director Howell has joined us. Director Howell?
Yes.
Thank you. With that, we have a quorum at 100 votes. This meeting will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will air on Saturday, March the 13th at 2 p.m. and Tuesday, March the 16th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. And is webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed captioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Would everybody unmute their mics and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and
and justice for all. And we're getting better at that. Thank you. Clerk Brooks, would you please call the next item?
Consent calendar items 2 through 1 through 2 through 3.
Any public comment on those?
I have no public comment on the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Director Budge, second by Director Howell. Please call the roll.
Director Budge?
Yes.
Director Harris?
Aye.
Director Howell?
Yes.
Director Hume?
Aye.
Director Jennings?
Aye.
Director Kennedy?
Aye.
Director Natoli?
Aye.
Director Chenier?
Aye.
Director Cerna?
Aye.
Director Valenzuela?
Sorry. Yes.
And Chair Miller.
Yes.
With that, we have a quorum at 100 votes. The next item is
Go ahead.
public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda. And I have 2 public comments, if you'd like me to read them.
Yes.
The first one is from Jeffrey Tartagia. Friday, in talk with GM, I submitted 3 questions. I asked about RT calendar. It needs a ledger. Explain who, what, meeting, telephone number if problems or access issues. Will RT explain more about rail service and stations coming? Lastly, heard last Thursday at Mobility Access Committee about low-floor light rail vehicles, which I have asked for technical spec for 2 years. My understanding is Thursday, April 1, subcommittee will meet at 2:30. If some board members could attend, this would be helpful. Tonight, you are planning a workshop on Elk Grove. I hope the year you can have one on 5-10-year plan to replace 2 low floor. I am disappointed in what I have heard for seniors and disabled, blind, and hope that we are only 10 years back for light rail. I rarely see more than 10 people listening or looking at board meetings. Steve, can you learn how to use webinars so more direct public comments can be included and not this limited format? You are not as bad as state Senate hearings with numbers, but you need to visit 65th Street and understand what RT is not doing and learn for TOD, transit-oriented development, to work. You need a checklist. I have asked many questions but need better public transit, please. Also, for 26 Citizens Academy graduates, you need to bring them back and show then new apps, vending machine, and Go Mobile and maps for April changes. What is the board doing for October statewide transit meetings? Thank you, one of your ambassadors. And the second comment is from Mike Birnbaum. The Yolo County Transportation District will meet tonight at 7:00 p.m. on Zoom with a link provided on their website to join and comment directly on district business. The comprehensive operational analysis, YOLO Go, highlights tonight's agenda. Of interest to SAC-RT would be any potential service changes that affect both Sacramento International Airport and downtown Sacramento. The San Joaquin JPA will meet virtually at 9 a.m. on the 26th on the Go-To meeting platform. Highlighting that meeting will be the draft 2021 San Joaquin's business plan. Of interest to SAC-RT here would be the planning of the 8th and 9th round trip and construction of new stations between Stockton and North Natomas, along with an airport shuttle connector from the proposed North Natomas station. SAC-RT fixed route service changes go into effect on 4 routes on April 4th, while 3 smart ride zones will expand beginning on April 5th. Log on to sacrt.com or contact customer service for complete descriptions of the April 2021 service changes and see if they will directly affect you. At the March 22nd board meeting, I will focus on this date in SAC-RT history, as an 11-year anniversary of the board of directors is rapidly approaching. Details will be provided to you all on March 22nd, but due to word limitation, it will not be delivered verbally tonight. And that concludes the public comments that I have received.
Thank you, Cindy. And with that, we can move on to the next item.
The next item is new business, item 7.1, a workshop for the City of Elk Grove Transit Service annexation to SAC-RT, and this is presented by Laura Ham.
Welcome, Laura.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Miller and directors. It's my pleasure to give you a progress update on annexation discussions with the City of Elk Grove. Brent Berniger will be joining me after a couple of slides to present as well. Adam, you can go ahead and move to slide 2, please. So I'd like to begin with identifying a few of the significant benefits of annexation. These include positioning the region more strongly for transit-related grant funding. This could include a number of mutually beneficial projects, such as zero-emission vehicle replacement, service expansion of fixed route, express bus, and microtransit services, as well as progressing the extension of the Blue Line from Cosumnes River College into Elk Grove. We would also be able to quickly implement the community request for eliminating transfers between EVAN and SAC-RT Go paratransit services. We would continue to offer competitive wages and benefits for our Elk Grove employees. Slide 3, please. SAC-RT has demonstrated quality service in our contract operations of ETRAN and EVAN services with high levels of customer satisfaction. In a January 2020 customer survey, SAC-RT received positive ratings between 3 and 5 out of 5 on all service lines. Before the pandemic, the ridership, quality, and productivity of the service were all improved from Elk Grove's previous private contractor. During the coronavirus pandemic, Elk Grove has experienced ridership drops like many other transit systems. Nonetheless, it's our honor to continue to provide much-needed essential transit services including fixed route, commuter, and demand response services on behalf of the city. Next slide. We are targeting July 1, 2021 as an effective date for annexation. With our experience annexing the cities of Citrus Heights and Folsom and our current contract experience, we have a strong understanding of the required steps to transfer responsibility for transit service and see no significant obstacles to being operationally ready to transition the service on the effective date of annexation. A transition planning process in partnership with the city would identify further details of the transition of funding, assets, and record keeping, as well as administrative responsibilities currently provided by the city. We're also actively working with our labor unions at this time regarding any necessary amendments to collective bargaining agreements to incorporate the service line. Upon annexation, Elk Grove becomes a member entity of the district with board representation in accordance with the legislated voting structure. Next slide, please. In operating the service, we've agreed to maintain services proportionate to current Elk Grove service levels throughout the life of the agreement. Under the current draft terms, there would be no changes to existing city transit services for the first year. Overall, SAC-RT has an obligation to maintain the service as it exists today for the first 4 years of the annexation agreement. As it relates to minor changes such as schedules and time points, the Elk Grove City Manager will be delegated the authority to approve or disapprove of those changes. And under our current proposal, major changes proposed by SAC-RT in certain circumstances would require a meet and confer process, in addition to the SAC-RT board approval process typically required for major service changes. This would be limited to circumstances for which Elk Grove would also probably be considering service changes, such as the event of an economic downturn, severe ridership reduction, or other circumstances that would impact service quality and equity. The city may request service changes during the time period as well, during the 4-year period. The annexation agreement also assumes a gradual return to pre-COVID service levels for city transit service. We're operating about 85% of service, particularly on the commute routes right now. We've also agreed to retain the current fare structure for at least the first 6 months, and also to form a rider task force for input on the transition. At this point, I'd like to hand it over to Brent, who will go over the major financial terms and the next steps.
All right, great. Thank you, Laura. So in regards to the financial terms, the agreement is structured so that the Elk Grove Transit Funds, all the assets and revenues would be transferred to SAC-RT. In return, SAC-RT would be obligated to pay any liabilities and operating costs associated with operating the service under an annexation model. Actually, can we go to the next slide, please? There's the first bullet. Okay, great. In addition, there would be a commitment by SAC-RT to allocate reasonable proportionate share of future transportation sales tax to the Elk Grove service area. This could be used to fund a light rail extension, zero-emission vehicles, and other service improvements. As part of the agreement, we would also enter into a lease agreement with the city of Elk Grove for the use of its corporate yard. What we'd be able to do is we'd enter into an 8-year lease agreement, up to an 8-year lease agreement, and that would allow us to operate the service and our other needs. In return, SAC-RT would be paying market value for the lease, and that would be paid to the general fund, and the general fund would be able to pay the transit negative fund balance. In addition, SAC-RT would be paying an administrative fee of about $98,000 per year to be used for transportation administrative services or other improvements as deemed necessary by the city of Elk Grove. This base amount would increase or decrease based on the TDA fluctuations on a yearly basis. And then finally, we've been working diligently to identify all the future costs that are associated and the revenue streams associated with an annexation model. Under those, factoring those assumptions in, we're projecting a break even over a 5-year period. Next slide, please. So now we're in the final stretch, and what we're looking for is just the city to the city to work with us and kind of iron out a couple of smaller negotiation items. And once we get that worked out, there's a 2x2 between the SAC-RT board and the City of Elk Grove council members. And then we could return on March 22nd, 2021 for final adoptions. Are there any questions or comments?
Any questions for Brent or Laura? Pat Hume has his poker face on. Other than that, I don't see any hand raised.
Well, I thank you for that, Chair. I was actually waiting to allow my colleagues the opportunity to have their questions answered. The final, and first of all, I want to thank staff because this has been a pretty protracted negotiation that I think a lot of deal points have been worked out and pencils sharpened and so on to where the numbers seem to make sense for both sides. The final sticking point seems to be sort of Elk Grove's ability to assure transit equity within the jurisdiction of Elk Grove once it gets absorbed into the larger regional transit district. You know, given the RT simply by its nature has a fairly draconian formula for when it comes time to make service cuts, what lines get cut. Do you see light at the end of the tunnel on making progress towards agreeable language in that regard? I've heard City of Elk Grove staff side. Now I'm looking to RT side.
I can answer that question. I believe that we are close to reaching agreement on the specific language. As I mentioned in the presentation, Elk Grove would maintain primary authority related to service changes in that first 4-year period. We are obligated to maintain the existing service as it stands today. We've asked just for a meet and confer process under certain circumstances going forward. And so we're discussing the details of that language, but I believe that we'll reach agreement on the specifics here fairly soon.
Good.
And also, I first really, again, want to thank Director Hume, and other council members from Elk Grove, and also, SAC decided some directors and the staff on both sides. This has been a 4 years, a journey to get to this point, and lots of extensive discussions on many, parts of the deal. This somehow, it's kind of like a very intensive process. In the meantime, it's a very, happy process too, because we're doing something great for the region. I really like, respect what Director Hume just mentioned a word, very key word, which is, service, equity. The equity is the key word. And we're not going to, I think the board here, will treat all member, entities equally and fairly. And that should not be the concern, at least from my perspective. And I think all, from all board members' perspective, and we will always strive to the service equity, fairness, and respect, and trust, and the candor. I mean the great partnership. That is not going to be an issue, and the reason we are confident. I talked to city manager, during the lunchtime today. We discussed the 3 funding sources from the 3 federal stimulus bills probably will be good enough to cover the current service level, just like SAC-RT is confident the money we received from the federal 3 bills will be able to cover our next 4 years service. And also, we are in the process reaching the final agreement with our union leadership partners to maintain the current contracts with the unions, on the same or a little bit improved terms, but not significant, cost increase. So based on that two, facts, and we think, we're confident we will be able to maintain the current level of service for Elk Grove in the next 4 years. But we cannot guarantee, we cannot, say, hey, we absolutely will be able to do that. Because what if somehow, the economic downturn become a huge issue? So there's some language, we need to be, smooth out. That's something we are doing and we believe in next week or two or so, we will be able to, get that final point. So I just want to add that.
I have a question, and maybe my question is more for Pat than for Henry. That was a fairly significant negative fund balance, Patrick. Did you guys not make any adjustments for service prior to getting to this point?
Actually, we have that fund balance stems, and we've actually been fairly diligent about paying it down when it got put on the books, so to speak. That stems from, if you remember, back when previous Elk Grove administration chose to run hybrid buses that were prone to having thermal incidents on the freeway. Most of us call those fires. And needless to say, we had $8 million worth of buses with weeds growing through the floorboards. But we've been paying that down, and it's just kind of that was one of the early on sticking points that RT recognized from our standpoint is while we maintained our transit operations, we could pay that balance down. Once we were to hand everything over, if they get all the assets, they should take our liability as well. But yeah, that had nothing to do with a decrease in service.
Okay. Well, the only good thing is that, given the annexation of Folsom, however long ago that was, we had a positive balance in our fund that RT also took over. So that almost wipes it out. So you're welcome.
And that's the other thing is when we put together our 5-year projection, we showed wiping out that negative fund balance and having a surplus.
Okay. And just if it makes you guys feel any better in getting the negotiations complete, there have been very, very minor issues that the city of Folsom has had since our annexation into RT. And whenever there was an issue, we contacted RT staff, and frankly, they took care of it very quickly. So our ridership, as I understand it, is very happy.
Good.
Or Henry would have called to let me know that he was getting phone calls. So
Thank you.
And Pat, as I heard your concerns, they match exactly what Citrus Heights were when we were considering annexation. And I can echo Carrie's comments. It's been a really good relationship. So all I'd say about the equity issue is we got your back if you got our back. Any other questions or comments?
Chair Miller, I have 2 public comments if you'd like me to read them at this time.
Perfect timing. Please.
Thank you. The first one is from Mike Birnbaum. While I did not see the draft annexation agreement in the staff report or other specifics in particular, I would like to participate in tonight's workshop with some questions that I hope Laura and staff that you can all answer this evening. Will the parties agree on route numbering that is more like SAC-RT's structure so as to eliminate rider confusion? Will the corporation yard become, in essence, a second garage for SAC-RT's 40-foot fixed route buses while maintaining the original garage at 29th and N Streets? In terms of vehicle branding, are the parties acceptable with all buses being branded in the SAC-RT branding, or will we still see the olive green on routes in Elk Grove? Will city transit employees at all transit positions be grandfathered into SAC-RT employees without the hardship of testing and interviewing so as to make their transition and their life as simple and as easy as possible into the same position with SAC-RT that they currently have with the City of Elk Grove. In terms of transit services, will fixed routes operate on weekends, much like the rest of SAC-RT? Will a smart ride zone be created? When could EVAN become SAC-RT Go? Last question, when will this item go before the City Council, and will the meeting be both in person while wearing a mask and online for those that can't be there? Mike Birnbaum. And the second comment is from Helen O'Connell. I think this would make RT a real regional transit and is a good thing for Sacramento. That would mean expanding service to Elk Grove for RT Go, and we would be in full region between Folsom, Citrus Heights, Carmichael, North Sac, South Sac, and Elk Grove. I feel it's a real step forward. Thank you very much, and I am in full support of the annexation. Helen O'Connell. And that concludes public comment.
Well, thank you, Mike and Helen, for your comments. I don't know if we could address all of Mike's questions. It really gets into nuts and bolts that we're not discussing tonight. This is more of a policy issue right now, but I'm sure we can get those answered soon enough. One of the questions I was curious about, these will all be branded as RT buses, correct?
I think that they will be branded as regional transit. I think the conversion of the vehicle livery or wraps will happen over time as vehicles are replaced.
Thank you. Well, if there's no other questions or comments, we can move on to the next item.
The next item is item 8.1, the General Manager's Report. And in the report, you have a written summary from the Capital Corridor JPA meeting of February 17th. Mr. Lee?
Okay. It's my turn?
Yes, sir. It's your turn.
So you have a presentation to show, right? I'm going to read my speaking notes, so I will not be able to see the PowerPoint. So if you can help me to just try to correspond to my talking points when you show the presentation. Okay, Cindy or Adam. Hello.
Yes, sir. We will do that.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, Chair Miller, board members, and the public. Thank you for joining us. Let me begin by wishing everyone a happy International Women's Day. And more than half of our approximately 1,300 employees are female employees, and they are heroes to provide essential transportation services to our citizens during this global pandemic. A week ago, SAC-RT, in coordination with the SAC-RT Sacramento County Department of Public Health, began providing free transit rides for everyone who needs to get to a scheduled COVID-19 vaccine appointment location. This includes all vaccination sites in Sacramento County, within SAC-RT's service area, including hospitals, pharmacies, and other immunization locations. And in addition, we are working with some senior citizen centers and other underserved community organizations to provide special services to transport them to vaccination sites. So these services will not be regular fixed services. It's some special services. But most importantly, we are eliminating barriers to access. As I mentioned last time, we have read stories of senior citizens that have walked miles to receive a vaccine in other regions, other states. And that is not something we want to say in our region. And we're excited on this partnership, and we'll be sure to report back on its results and successes to the board. California is revamping its guidelines for counties to make it easier for some businesses to reopen as more COVID-19 vaccines come into the state. As our region reopens and continues its recovery, Sac County is ready to welcome back riders. Scientific studies have shown that public transportation is one of the most COVID-safe places to be outside the home due to the enhanced cleaning, enforced social distancing, and the mask wearing and the vehicle ventilation systems. As a reminder, Sac County is frequently fogging, sanitizing, and cleaning our vehicles on a daily basis, enforcing mask wearing and social distancing, and we continue to procure PPEs for our employees and passengers. And we have also added temperature check stations at 11 key Sac County facilities. All Sac County employees have been required to get a temperature check before entering the Sac County facility for over a year now. But this new pay askers will help with efficiency, staffing, record keeping, and contact tracing. Should a machine detect a temperature over 100.4 degrees, the scanner informs the individual of the temperature exceedance and notifies safety department and the employee's direct supervisor. So all of these efforts are important steps to protecting our workforce and the general public. Right now, we have 5 employees are out because of the positive, results. But in the last year, normally, once a staff, get positive result, COVID-19 test, and within 2 weeks, they normally come back to work. And very few cases, they took longer than 2 weeks. So as we welcome back riders who have reduced their travel during the pandemic, we know it is important to hear from them and receive feedback on the types of services they're seeking and the concerns they might have. Last September, Sac County conducted an online rider survey regarding rider attitude and opinions during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we launched a second online rider survey to gauge rider readiness to come back to the transit and find out more information about our current riders. The survey has been posted on our website, and we have shared a digital toolkit with board members and partners to help promote the survey. The survey will be live for 3 weeks, and we will post the results of the survey on our website. In last September, we asked the customers to rank their satisfaction ratings in line best safety practices on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 is the best. Sac County received an overall score of 4.15, which is 83%, which is very, very good. And we're eager to hear from our riders now that vaccines are becoming more widely disseminated. Next, I would like to inform everyone about an upcoming Sac County ADA Paratransit virtual open house that will be occurring this week. We have contacted everyone on our Sac County Go Paratransit Services mailing list to let our customers know that the 2 virtual open houses on Wednesday, March 11th, we have a 10 a.m. session and a 6 p.m. session, and we welcome our board members and the public to attend. But also, as you all know, Sac County has been operating ADA Paratransit in-house since July 2020 after years of contracting out the operations. I'm proud of what the team, Sacramento team, has been doing, able to accomplish and how smoothly the transition has gone. We look forward to engaging in our riders and continuing to improve our operations. The meeting will be recorded and then added to Sacramento's YouTube channel for those who cannot attend. The Zoom link will be added to the Sacramento Go website. A closed caption will be available. And I hope everyone will be able to join us virtually. Shifting to our next topic, at our last board meeting, I shared with you very good news from our bond rating agency, S&P Global Rating, regarding Sacramento's financial outlook. Now, the rating agency Moody's has completed its periodic review of our A3 rating of Sacramento, and I would just like to read a quote from the preliminary announcement. The quote says, Sacramento has relatively large size of the system and service area, a strong and growing area economy, and high levels of political support. The rating is also supported by strong governance decisions, including the defeasance of debt, which substantially reduced our debt levels and the yield to essentially low debt service from 2 years ago through to September 2020, and the strategic focus on improving ridership, which is the #1 priority for this industry and for all transit agencies, supermajority of transit agencies. This great news regarding the financial health of Sacramento is a credit to the finance team led by our CFO and the entire Sacramento team, and also our board guidance and strong fiscal policies, and especially in light of the pandemic. And we're thankful for our strong federal delegation, Congresswoman Matsui, Congressman Barra, and Garamendi, and the Senators Pedera and Feinstein for a strong leadership in shepherding the American Rescue Plan Act through Congress in last couple months. The $1.9 trillion relief package was passed on Saturday and include $30 billion for public transit nationwide, and that equivalent to another $100 million for Sacramento from the formula funding basis. And we're thankful Congress recognizes the important role transit plays in moving essential frontline workers and transit dependent every day. To conclude my remarks, I would like to provide an update on the great work Sacramento's real estate department has been doing to start the year. So last week, Sacramento sold our property located at 2220 Seymour Circle in Gold River. The property is 8 acres and was sold to USA Properties Fund, who has entitlements now to build 165 market rate apartment units. As part of the transaction, Sacramento receives $2.1 million from the sale. And Sacramento has originally acquired the property in 1986 as a potential park and ride lot for the Sunrise Light Rail Station. The board declared the property surplus in 2015, and Sacramento has been working with USA Properties since 2017 on soil remediation. Also, early this month, Sacramento finalized the transfer of the Del Rail Trail to the city of Sacramento. 10 parcels were transferred as part of the old rail corridor between Sutterville Road and just past Meadowville. The city is planning a pedestrian bike trail on a 4.8 miles corridor that will improve mobility for the community and the connections to nearby bus stops. And congratulations and greatly thanks to Director Shania Jennings and Venezuela on championing this community project. This is probably one of the perfect examples of how SACRT has been working with our member entities on some mutually beneficial project for the great purpose and great mobility for this whole region. And the construction of new student housing also continues on the former site of SACRT's University 65th Bus Transit Center. SACRT, you can see our picture, our presentation, the construction site. SACRT moved into new, more accessible bus stops closer to the light rail station in September 2020. A traffic light has been installed at the 4th and the 67th Street for safe access to our buses. And a significant progress is being made on the construction of the 223 housing units. And then finally, last month, the SMART Board of Directors approved a development team for the 59th Street reuse project to be named SAC 50 Line. SMART has relocated its field yard and the proposed SAC 59 development and the cost for 108 single-family housing and 770 multi-family homes near our light rail station. And the key component of the project includes relocating the 59th Street light rail station to the west to better facilitate a transit-oriented development. This will be a huge development. I mean, with more than close to 900 residential housing units in that location. The developers are holding a community outreach meeting on March 24th, where they will answer questions and receive feedback from the public. We're very excited to work with SMART and the partners as this moves forward. This project, kind of similar to our future project on Florence Light Rail Station, which costs about close to 1,000 housing unit apartment in the future, TOD in the Florence. Thank you very much, Director Harris, for your tremendous support of TOD around our 59th and 65th Street stations. And we had many talks with you, and you tried your help on the whole process. There were some barriers and hurdles you helped us to move along. And these two TODs are among the largest TOD projects in SACRT's history and will bring significant ridership to our system. So this very much concludes my GM report, and I'm ready to entertain any questions if there are any questions from board.
Great report, Henry, and thank you. I'm a little uncomfortable when the bond rating agency credits a lot to our governance and
Okay.
But that's important, and it's nice to get some credit. But I think most of the credit's due to our staff and our front lines that make this all work and make RT so successful. So, great report. I appreciate it. Questions and comments from the board?
Chair Miller.
Mr. Harris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Henry, thank you for the kudos. We have been working with RT to develop TOD opportunities for years, ever since I got elected in 2014. So Symphony 65 East development is progressing really nicely, and that will help us create this feeling of a university village around Sac State, which is what we're working towards. Additionally, numerous other developers are getting into the game. You know, Sacramento needs a lot of housing units, and as we bring students closer to Sac State, it opens up a lot of housing in other areas of the city. So it's a win-win, and I'm very excited about it. But the 59th Street possibility is the best TOD possibility in the region right now. Hopefully, Florin will flourish in the future and even eclipse us. But the fact of the matter is, Sotiri Kolakatronis got the project from SMUD along with Mike Paris. And this is going to be really a brilliant development. So I look forward to this build out in the future. The moving of the 59th Street station will be very positive. And I totally agree with our general director, Henry, that this is going to be very positive outcome for SAC-RT. I think that we are moving in the direction of changing the way we do mobility by bringing housing next to our light rail lines. And this is the best opportunity we have. So I have to tell you, I'm extremely excited. Now, there are a couple of obstacles. We have some toxics that have to get cleaned up. But Sotiri and Mike are on the game, as well as Smud, who's a great player, and SAC-RT. And that will actually go, I think, pretty expeditiously. So I would look forward to development happening maybe 2022, possibly delayed till 2023. But this is going to really help change the complexion of mobility in the Sacramento region. So I'm very excited. Henry, thank you so much. It took a, excuse me, it took a little while to get here and put this thing in motion, but your help is greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Chair Miller, my hand is up if that's okay to go next.
Oh, I can't see the little hand thingy, so.
Okay,
Director
next time I'll
Valenzuela, just wave, yeah, the real
I'll do
hand
what
up.
Jeff did and just raise my physical hand. Yeah. Thank you,
Perfect, I can
Henry,
see
for
that.
that update. I'm curious about the outreach we're doing for these surveys for future service. Have we done anything in languages other than English? Is that something we can help with? I'm just curious what you and staff have planned for that work. It seems like an important opportunity to get input from folks as they're getting ready to come back from COVID-19. So curious.
Deborah, can you answer Director Valenzuela's question?
Hi, absolutely. Yes, we are doing the survey in other languages.
Okay, awesome. Is there any social media stuff we could use in promotion?
We could get that translated for you if you'd like.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
The survey is another language, but we'll help provide you with other materials.
That would be great, Steph. Thank you, Deborah. And I think in general, when it comes to the Go app, something I've been concerned and interested in is if folks who don't read English are using the app. Is that something that we have the ability to track at all? Or because obviously we want everybody to use it. So I'm just curious if we have any way of tracking that kind of data.
Our customer satisfaction team actually can answer any questions. They use a third-party translator, and so they can work with any customer in any language to assist them.
Oh, great. Does that happen often?
I would have to get the numbers for you, report back if that's okay, but frequently enough. And you'd be surprised at the length. So it's been very efficient.
That's great. I would love to get that information. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Henry.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions?
Just Chair Miller, just a comment to Henry about the free rides for vaccination shots. I just think that's brilliant, and I want to congratulate you and your leadership and RT for making that happen. And anything I think any of us can do to help get the word out so that more people can take advantage of it, whether it's the nonprofits, churches, local businesses, whatever we can do to help, we'd be more than willing to do so, because this is so important for everyone to have rides, and we have no idea how many people don't get vaccinated because they don't have transportation. But I'd be interested in seeing the numbers as you get them, and then what we can do as a board to help promote those numbers and get more people involved and engaged.
Yes, we will. We will, share more materials with board members, and we will bring back the result too, to share with you.
So I just wanted to give you my last idea on that whole subject is, I just think it would be incredible to wrap some of our buses with that information about the free rides. And so just to let everybody know that not only will we take you to where you want to go, but you get a free ride if you're getting a vaccination. So anyway, just want to give you that idea in case you hadn't thought of it yourself.
Thank you. We will try to see what we can do.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Jennings. Any other? If not, we'll move on to the next item, please.
Next item is reports, ideas, and questions from directors, if any.
Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, virtual or otherwise. So we'll move on to the next item.
The closed session items, as was noticed, is being canceled. So we have no further items on the agenda for this evening.
Well, if that's the case, then I will adjourn tonight's meeting and say thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night.